Hello, welcome to PodFic Galore. I'm your horrible online reader, Goldscott. I read out loud fanfictions for you busy bees, free of charge, no strings attached, and no AI. Today I will continue reading a Silmarillion / Lord of the Rings fic from Archive of Our Own, written by yours truly, called The Wraith of Himring. I hope you can at least try to enjoy my voice, and I will try my best for you with the equipment available to me. On with the show. The Wraith of Himring, Chapter 11. Play for me. The journey had never felt so long for her. Elrond and Erestor seemed to share her opinion as they travelled light and fast. She shed tears as she urged the horse faster, the mare sharing her sense of urgency. When they finally saw the Havens and its towers, they eased their pace, the horses now trotting along the paved road. It was clear they were expected, as calls rang out and they were pointed towards Círdan's house. The said shipwright stood by the steps when they dismounted. "Elrond, I must apologize for calling you, but he is delirious and feverish. It won't go down, no matter what we try. He was struck to the head 2 weeks ago by an oar, a misunderstanding, and then fell onto rocks and is not recovering well. There is something else to tell you as well, but I will not speak of it here." "Very well, old friend. Erestor and Tauriel will help me. Tell me everything on the way." "I'm sorry I did not tell you he was alive. He seemed adamant he did not want to be around his family, claiming he'd only bring death. So I respected his wishes, against my better judgment." "You did what Gildor did. I think I can forgive you as well. You, considering your heritage, had no reason to be kind to him. Yet you did. Even searched for him. I thank you for it. No matter what he did, he is still one of us firstborns. For years he had been living off the land and on provisions I have provided him via Gildor. I suspected it to be him they call the Wraith of Himring, until I went there again and found not just Maglor, but the body of Maedhros, untouched by flames," Círdan explained as he led them into the house. The three stopped in their tracks, Elrond shooting out a steadying hand to the wall. "What?" "Maedhros apparently did not die in the flames. His Fea has taken over the whole ruins of Himring. He is the Wraith often seen. I saw him. He kept watch. He probably will keep watch over Arda until remaking. Unless he can let go." "How far is the island by boat?" 2 days, given the weather. I felt like he wanted me to take Maglor away. He's not in the halls of Mondos. Nor is he awake." Círdan pushed the door open they had supped by. Elrond let out a shaky breath. On the bed lay a thin, pale figure, raven hair smoothed away from a stitched wound, his face partially bruised purple. Erestor, who saw in the room over Elrond's shoulder, laid a steadying hand on Tauriel's back as she followed the older elf into the room. They stood at the foot of the bed as Elrond, after washing and drying his hands, sat on the edge, examining his foster father with trembling fingers. "He's fading. That is why he's not healing. Oh, Atia, what have you done to yourself?" he mumbled in Quenya, examining him gently. "He's burning. His fever is high. Erestor, can you hand me—" Dull silvery eyes opened. "Yonya?" he croaked. "I'm here, Atia. I'm here to look after you, like you looked after me and Elros." "Why?" "I came because you are my father. I have missed you. Why didn't you come to me?" "I bring death." "You brought life as well. I will talk with you more later. I believe there is a reunion more important than ours," Elrond said, arranging him better on the bed. saddened by how thin he had become. He took the bag Erestor offered him, looking through the selection of herbs he had brought, while the counselor went to request boiling water. "Athelas," Tauriel whispered upon seeing the plant Elrond pulled out. Maglor, who watched him listlessly, mumbling to himself, or to someone he thought he was seeing standing beside his foster son, turned his gaze to the two others in the room. "Morio?" he mumbled as he caught Erestor returning. "Go along. He's delirious again," Elrond replied quietly. "You should have been careful, Gano," Erestor said, his tone changing when he switched to Quenya. He didn't quite grasp the long-forgotten way his father spoke, but he tried. "You got hit by an oar?" "You would have fallen. Who are you? Morio is dead." "I'm his son. I think you did know of my existence." Tears began to fall as the room was filled with the scent of Athelas. Tauriel hugged her bag, where she had the family mementos. Her hair surrounded her face, shielding her from the sight. He looked so weak, like he had finally broken. Maglor was mumbling to himself again, as Elrond wiped his face with a damp cloth. "Do not take him yet. There is one more person he must meet," he whispered, dabbing the stitched area gently. It had luckily required only 3 or 4 of them, but head wounds always bled profusely. They stayed in the room for hours, taking turns freshening up and coming to keep an eye on him, trying to get him to drink water and Mirror. Tauriel could only stare, trying to find familiar features, but it was hard. With nothing else to do, she took his hand in hers, feeling the scars. Much like his mother centuries ago, she began to gently massage it, eliciting mumbles from her father. What made her heart soar was to hear the name he had forgiven to her mother, Linwen. By sunset, the fever had broken. Círdan had come to see them before retiring for the night. "You brought it down?" "Yes, the combination of Athelas and some other herbs seemed to have worked. We only had dried Athelas. It is so rarely needed we could not find it fresh. Also, with your skills, it is far greater." He glanced at Tauriel, who was sleeping on the foot of the bed, curled up. "Is she who I think she is?" "His daughter, whom he thought dead. He hasn't been lucid enough to realize, or thought her to be a hallucination, maybe of Maedhros or Nerdanel." "I suspected as much." "How was he, really?" "Which brother?" Elrond opened and then closed his mouth. He didn't know which one he meant. 2 weeks ago, 3 elves had been fishing as a storm swept in. They barely made it to the island, seeking refuge from within the ruins. Then, in the morning, one of them explored. A rampart nearly collapsed from under him, but Maglor pulled him to safety. That was when one of the 3 struck him with an oar and he fell, hitting the other side of his head. The one he saved wished to remain to help him, but as the wraith with red hair appeared, they ran. He approached them as if trying to protect Maglor. They said they heard screaming once they were out of sight. It was eating them up. They thought they had just murdered an elf. They almost did. How long was he there alone? 2 days. I got the message as soon as they were home. I took Galdor with me, and some Noldor who have lived here for years. They are a capable crew. He seemed frightened. Elrond, Maedhros looked like he was merely sleeping, but there was this stillness about him. I also could feel Maglor's song all over him." "So who created the Wraith? Maedhros himself? Or Maglor accidentally?" Elrond mused. "When I was trying to get him to move, I thought I saw Maedhros open his eyes and look at us. All the Fëanorian lanterns were extinguished when the heat had enveloped Maglor and vanished." Elrond sat there, deep in thought. Maybe I need to visit Himring for the first time. They were living in Amon Ereb by the time they took us. Himring was long lost. It's 2 days in good weather. Osse or Ulmo himself might grant us swift passage. After he awakens. It took 2 days for Maklor to awaken. He seemed confused at first, until Círdan had explained what had happened. It wasn't a dream. No, Elrond is here, and so is your nephew, Erestor. They have been taking care of you. You gave the 3 fishers quite the scare on Tol Himling. Ah, I took an oar to the head. Who said that? I did, Erestor replied as he opened the door fully. Maklor struggled to sit, allowing Círdan to pull him to sit, arranging pillows for him. You mistook me for my father in your fever delirium. I remember now. It's fuzzy, but you look so much like him. More or less. He shrugged, glancing over as Elrond returned to the room with a simple meal on a tray. Are you really... Erestor Caranthirion, your last living nephew, unless Celecorm or twins were hiding illegitimate children in the woods, you are not hallucinating. Maklor choked out a laugh at that. You will eat, Atya. You've been ill for a long time. Behind him, Erestor had Tauriel take the harp she had carried with her. She looked down first, before slowly raising her gaze as she rounded the bed, sitting on his other side. He turned his attention to her, searched her frame until locking onto the harp, then snapping back up to the necklace, and then her hair. She held back her tears and smiled. Play for me? Holding up the harp, he looked on as the knobby fingers slowly came to grasp and caress the harp, until forsaking it and taking her hands instead. His hands were coarse and clumsy, but still warm. Something sparked in his eyes. Meril, he whispered. Upon hearing her real name, she sobbed and flung herself into his arms, holding him tight, being embraced back as tightly as his strained body could. He was here. He remembered. The embrace was so familiar she could have screamed. My little songbird, my wildflower, how did you survive? The forest hit me. I forgot who I had been for the most of my life. The Sindar and Sylvan elves of Mirkwood raised me. They called me Tauriel. You love the woods. A fitting name. I didn't want to believe it at first. How someone with such past could... Your mother didn't know, and she didn't care. She cared for me, and she cared for my brother. They both wept onto each other's shoulders, clinging to one another. Maklor raised his eyes to his foster son, smiling at him weakly. Elrond leaned against him, arm around his waist. His gaze turned to Erestor, who was smiling at them. I still must apologize for not telling you. I know he was like your father. You did not deserve to lose years spent with him. Círdan said to Elrond after a while, as Tauriel was making sure her father ate and drank even a little bit. He's a stubborn old mule, as Maedhros would call him. And be called that right back. Tauriel had listened to Círdan's tale, of how it had seemed Maedhros was dead and alive at the same time, how he had reacted to him coming to get Maklor out of there, to help him. If Elrond was to go there, would she go as well? Or should she stay with her father? Is he dead? She asked quietly. I don't know, Maklor replied, pulling his legs up and wrapping his arms around them. I thought he had died, and when I made it back a year later, with your mother, he was alive. He broke his head, and maybe even his back when he fell. It was the 3rd time he was at the doors of Mundos. 3rd? Elrond asked. I know the 1st was after Thangorodrim, but... He wasn't like the others. Not all Fëanorians were. Maklor tried to find the words. He called it a curse and a gift at the same time. Elrond and Círdan shared a look. Is it about Ereinion? Was Fingon really his father? Yes. Who was the mother? They say Maedhros raised him like his own, with Fingon, Círdan said. He wouldn't speak of it, and took what he knew to the halls with him. Atya, if he wasn't like the others. Maglor buried his face to his knees. I can't. It nearly killed him. He was still so broken and it was too soon, and I thought he would die. He lay there, barely breathing for days, maybe a week. Fingon was beside himself with worry, and I just tried to keep everything together so nobody would know. Elrond knew Maedhros had often been the one to keep his brothers in line and clean up after them. But Maglor, despite being the second child, while good with children, hadn't inherited the meticulous way his brother had done things. Maedhros wasn't an heir, he whispered, and Maglor stiffened. Not fully. A quick headshake. Ereinion was his. End of chapter 11. Stay tuned.